Welcome, everyone, to another chapter in our collective chess journey. Today, I will be showing you round one in an October tournament I played at the Houston Chess Studio. It was a $3,000 tournament, and we'll be looking at my round one game today against Greg Wilder, rated 1849 at the time, and I was rated 2141 at the time. And let's take a look at the game. First, I played c4, and Greg played e6, g3. Now, this is the English opening. I am very experienced with the English opening, and during the pandemic, I studied a lot of variations, so I came prepared. After Greg played d5, I played bishop g2, knight f6, knight f3, bishop e7, and if I play d4 soon, we'll get into what's called a Catalan opening. Castles, castles, b3. I thought about playing the mainland Catalan, which would be queen c2, but I'm not yet confident about the lines as they can get really theoretical. Or maybe I should say d4 followed by queen c2. But anyway, after b6, I played bishop b2, and then bishop b7. All natural developing moves from both sides. This is where I learned a lot from this last tournament, that if you know an opening really well, you should play it. If you don't know an opening at all, you should follow opening principles. And if you know an opening kind of halfway well, you should err on the side, just pretend like you don't know it. Because in this game, I thought I knew knight c3 really well, and I thought I knew knight c3, but I only played it based on memory, not based on opening principles. I would normally never play this kind of move that would allow my knight to get kicked away and sidelined to the side of the board. However, I remembered something, that this was a good move and it was an incorrect memory. This happened 3 times in the tournament, so this is a good thing to learn from. If I would have followed opening principles, I would have played a waiting move with pawn here. I could have played pawn d3 and gone for knight b d2. Lots of things I could have done. d4, even just take the pawn. Lots of options that were more natural than the move I played. After knight c3, my opponent correctly played d4. Knight b5. Looks like knight a4 was better, but I ended up playing knight b5. During the game, I knew my knight would end up on a3, but I thought shattering black's pawn with e3 would give me a good position. But what I didn't realize was I don't have a pawn on d4 yet anyway. So let's see what happens. c5, e3, and then after e3, a6, good in between move. I have only one square to go to. a3, d takes, and the engine says d takes was better, but it's too symmetrical and my knight's out of play. I played f takes thinking I actually had a decent position, when really black is already slightly better. I want to play d4, but I have a weakness on e3. Another thing is this square is weak on d3. The e4 square is weak. My knight's out of play. So after knight bd7, queen e2, now we're playing natural moves, queen c7. Both of us are connecting our rooks, developing our pieces. Rook ad1 is strong and natural. This is also a good move. And then I played knight b1, really hoping I could play knight from b1 into c3. However, that was really slow, and knight c3 was better. Knight c2 was better. After knight b1, I feared b5, hoping that my 1800 opponent didn't know about this kind of idea, and sure enough, he didn't play it. It would have given him a nice position with pressure on the a pawn. If I take this pawn, I'm already doomed. Now that you can see my pawn's under attack on a2, and if I try to move back, rook takes comes with an attack on my bishop, and black's pieces are all developed, and I still have this knight that's not developed, and the bishop's not developed. It's not looking great. Another problem is if I actually defend my pawn, bishop a6, queen over, I lose a whole rook, there's an attack on my queen. I could just resign here. After knight c3, black played knight e5, and I was like, oh no, the lower rated players traded all these pieces. They're going to trade a knight and a bishop. So I decided to play knight back here. I was, I played knight e1. My logic was to make this knight retreat to an awkward square to not trade so many pieces. After After Greg played bishop g2, I played queen takes g2, and I think knight g2 was better to get my knight back in the game. He played queen c6, and I had prepared this d4 idea, attacking the knight, and Greg was happy to trade queens. Knight takes. It looks like in hindsight I should have played king takes. I saw this position, but I didn't see knight c2. Also, rook f3 would have given me a big center, and my king is more natural. In the game, you'll see why my king is not so good on g1. After knight c6, I started realizing that there's some annoying moves. If I play a3, for example, takes, and do you guys see what black could do? You can pause the video. Yep, black can play knight takes pawn, rook takes, bishop c5, and if I defend it with two pieces, e5 wins the rook anyway. I considered knight e2, but knight e4 bothered me. I calculated this move, but then pawn takes, b5, and then takes, knight c5, when I thought my pawns were much weaker than black's pawns. d5, I knew this might be objectively best, but I wanted to keep the tension and keep it complicated. d5 is definitely interesting. Knight takes, I could try to fight for some advantage, although my e-pawn's really weak, but I have a protected passed pawn. Maybe an equal game. After c takes d4, I was really relieved to see this move. Anyway, that's why I played king over, to get out of those tactics. But anyway, after d takes c4, I was super relieved. After c takes d4, and then pawn takes d4, knight e7, knight e3, and then after the game, Greg told me he had missed knight e3, which prevents knight f5. He played knight g6, which is good. I played king g2. He played h5. Really made me freak out here. What I should have done is just push the center pawn in hindsight, or play knight e2, maybe go for some knight a4 ideas, attacking the pawn, and go for maybe even knight c2 and try to transfer the bishop over here for a pin. Lots of interesting ideas, but I freaked out and played h4. I had calculated h3, and once he plays h4 and I push, this is a blunder because knight takes f4 check. I can't take here, losing material. If I move my king here, I lose the pawn, and finally if I move my king here, it walks right into, pause the video if you want to see what move it is. And yep, he would just play knight check, or even worse, knight d5 check, or knight d3 check, picking up my bishop. There's a discovered attack, and after my king moves, I am in complete and utter disarray. In the game, after I played h4, black played rook fe8. I played rook fe1, kind of just shuffling because we're both in time pressure. So round 1 of this tournament was game 60, delay 5, which my coach Vish told me to treat it like a rapid game, so I did. However, my intuition wasn't the best. Let's see what happens. Bishop c7, king f3. I want to play g4, but this is not the right idea. King h7. I played rook h1 to try to make this more fearsome. He played king g8. I played knight e2. This is the right idea, actually. Rook e7. And now the correct move is, I played, unfortunately, g4. Correct idea is knight f4, threatening to double his pawns. He would take. My pawn looks weak here, but his knight can't go anywhere. This pawn, my two pawns are stopping the e5 break, and I can actually play for g file pressure, and maybe the d5 break, or even the f5 break. So in the game, h takes g4, I took back with the knight. Knight takes, and my king is actually not in a great position now. Rook d8, doubling rooks, very logical. I got my king out of the way, but Greg could have played knight e5. It would have been a really good move. But we were both in time pressure, so he played knight e7. I played king e4, not realizing my position's not that great. Greg played knight f5. I played rook d to g1, thinking I had d4 ideas with a long diagonal pressure with the h-pawn running up the board, and he was going to be in trouble. But really, black is actually better than white in this position. I evaluated the position incorrectly. I played h5 here, and then black plays this pawn f5 check, which I thought was a great move because it anchors the knight on that square. Maybe he should have been more patient, f6 first or something, but f5 was a great idea. I played king f3, he played knight g4, and now I made my big mistake. At this moment, I played knight f4, and both of us were down to 5 minutes, and I felt this was really strong, because I thought, great, I'm going to have a strong king, but I missed knight f2, and then if rook here, there's a fork, and let's take a look at this position. I lose a pawn, I attack here with the pin, he could defend it, and I have to fight really hard to try to draw this game. I think I could do it, but instead of playing into this, I made it even worse for myself, and I really had to take a risk to win the game because my rating is 2100 something, and his rating is 1850. So I took this crazy, insane risk with after this knight f4. I didn't take. I mean, after knight f2, I played d5. We both thought that there was pressure on the pawn. We didn't see that, but his rook's actually defending now thanks to the f5 move earlier. And he also has knight check. Lucky for me, I might be able to draw if I trap the knight with rook g2. The knight's actually trapped. He's going to get 1 or 2 extra pawns. It's going to be hard, but I might be able to draw the game. But in the game, he actually fell for the trap and took the rook. Now I'm already better. After pawn takes, if he plays rook here, pause the video. There's a good tactic here. Yep, and then bishop f6 wins material because of the pin right here on the g file. What else? He could have played rook over, and then after I take the knight, this pawn's probably going to fall. I have 2 pawns and a bishop for the rook with the passed pawn. White's better, but black might be able to draw. But in the game, he completely threw it away with the rook check. He played rook check. I took that rook. He took back here. And now king e5 was a terrible mistake. After the game, I thought I should have played king e5. But it looks like he can actually take a timeout to defend his knight. I pushed the pawn, and he could defend it. No, he could play rook e4 check. And now I have to waste time defending my pawn. Oh, or maybe I could take this pawn here. And actually, it looks like I'm still up a pawn. But what's the computer say? Oh, it's saying knight f2, defending the rook. Okay, I didn't see that move. But even after rook takes, black might have some counterplay to hold to get the draw here. But instead of playing this, I played the best move accidentally. I played king takes f5, which is, where is it? King takes f5. I played, no, back here. Instead of playing, after rook takes d4 check, I accidentally played king takes f5. And then Greg played rook back, and after I took the knight, he resigned. I won the game up 2 pawns with no hope for black. What a lucky outcome. And after reviewing, I realized, look, I've got to do some tweaking to not get in these risky positions against people who are 1800. But anyway, it was a great fight, fun game. One last little thing to mention is after king takes, if he does play rook over now, and I push the pawn, let's say to e7, and then he plays king here, I have a cool move that will actually give me a great position. Pause the video. Yep, it's rook takes g7. If he takes the rook, I get a queen. And finally, if he goes king here, I don't want to blow it with king here because he gets his knight in the game. But I could play king up to f6 or even king g5. And after the rook moves, I can start pushing the pawn. And maybe even later, rook g6, rook takes pawns. His knight's stuck in the corner, and I have 2 passed pawns, and his pawns are weak on the queen side. It's a difficult game, but white should be winning. I hope you enjoyed this round 1 game from the $3,000 Houston Chess Studio October Championship in 2023. Have a great rest of your night or day, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.